What is the most common organism implicated? So Staphylococcus aureus is there. If somebody is having a hair follicle infection, what do you call that thing? Folliculitis. And when the group of hair follicles are affected, what do you call that? Who led you in? Who opened the door for you? Arey, somebody was standing near the door. Who let you in? Baitho. Then उसके अलावा कुछ याद है? You remember just a folliculitis? Huh? Okay, cellulitis. Okay, and impetigo. Okay, impetigo is honeycomb crusted appearance on, particularly in children. Okay, what else? Do you remember carbuncle? Do you remember furuncle? You do, right? What is abscess? Abscess is collection of pus. What is carbuncle? Which region is mostly affected? Lower neck region. What kind of patients generally come with such symptom? Patient whose healing is gone down, who is a known case of diabetes mellitus, right? So these are all skin and soft tissue infection which can present themselves as superficial infections, or some can present themselves as a deep-seated infection, which can also include superficial skin and subcutaneous layers, right? So this is the anatomy of the skin. Skin is the largest organ of the body. What is the internal largest organ of the body? Huh? Liver. And overall? Skin. So skin has epidermis. How many layers are there in the epidermis? What are the names? Stratum basale, granulosum, spinosum, lucidum and corneum, right? Then there is dermis, then subcutaneous tissue, followed by fascia, muscles, and then there is bones. Okay. Now, when you talk about skin and soft tissue infections, what kind of presentation will be given to you in a case that the patient has come with painful skin lesion, and they might ask you what are the causative organisms, right? So in such cases, how will you do the laboratory diagnosis? You will take pus sample or pus swab. So when you are taking pus sample, how will you collect this sample? You can either, if there is a collection, you can either aspirate it under sterile conditions in a sterile container and transport it to the laboratory. If you are suspecting anaerobic infection, then what you will do? You will transport it in a transport medium for anaerobic. What is that medium? Okay. So when you are taking pus sample, can you observe macroscopically this pus specimen and tell that certain organism might be the causative organism? If pus is yellowish in color, golden yellow in color, with yellowish pigment, you think of Staphylococcus aureus. If it has some greenish discoloration, this pus, what will you think of? Pseudomonas aeruginosa. If pus is not as thick and it appears as an exudate, the transparent exudate, you will think of Streptococcus, right? So, even by looking at the specimen, you might be able to tell, but that does not mean you do not run the sample. You will inoculate this sample where? Which media? Blood agar and McConkey agar and chocolate agar, you can do that. Okay, then. Okay, this much do you know that how do you proceed with the sample in the laboratory. So, talking about the most common organism that is there, which is Staphylococcus. Which family does it belong to? How do you differentiate it from the Streptococcus from the Micrococcus? You do the catalase test. So, Staphylococcus will be catalase positive, Streptococcus will be negative. Morphologically, Staphylococcus will present as gram positive cocci in clusters and Streptococcus will present as gram positive cocci in short chains. What kind of colonies will it present? Golden yellow pigment colonies. This pigment is noted in which agar properly? In nutrient agar. So, it is providing with the optimum growth requirements of the bacterium. Also, it enhances the pigment of this bacterium, which you can see it on the nutrient agar. This is what? It's a blood agar. So, in case of blood agar, you will see the hemolysis, beta hemolysis, which is given by Staphylococcus aureus. Okay. Now, what are the virulence factors of Staphylococcus? Very important. Staphylococcus has cell wall associated factors, it has toxins and it has certain enzymes. What are the cell wall associated factors? It has a peptidoglycan which provides cell rigidity. And what are the cell wall associated factors? Ladkiyon, it has a peptidoglycan which confers cell rigidity and also responsible for the inflammatory response in the person. Then teichoic acid helps in the adhesion. There are certain clumping factors that are exhibited when you perform slide agglutination test, right? What is the slide agglutination test you perform? Using plasma. So, what will happen? If there is a colony which you react with the plasma, what will happen? It will form the clumping, right? So, in that case, this is because of cell surface adhesions. Then protein A. Protein A is anti-complementary. So, it helps against the defense mechanism of the person. These are all cell wall associated factors of Staphylococcus. Then there are certain toxins that are exhibited. What are they? Hemolysins, as the name suggests, breaks the RBC. So, this can be seen in vitro on blood agar plate also. Then leukocidin. What does this do? Leukocidin, as the name suggests, again against the defense mechanism it will act, right? Where can you see this leukocidin? Especially in the community acquired methicillin resistant strains of Staphylococcus aureus. Okay. Then certain toxins are there which you can see in the particular diseases such as enterotoxin. So, enterotoxin can cause staphylococcal food poisoning. Then toxic shock syndrome. Right? Where can you see this toxic shock syndrome? Toxic shock syndrome toxin. That is because of anaerobic bacterium. We are talking about staphylococcal exhibited toxic shock syndrome, which is very commonly found in females using tampons for longer period, which is contaminated with the staphylococcus, and then suddenly this female goes into the shock. Does not mean that this toxin cannot be found in males. And what kind of patients can you see this? Suppose the patient has the strain of, this toxin releasing strain of staphylococcus in form of abscess, osteomyelitis, right, in any cases. Then epidermolytic toxin or exfoliative toxin, which can be seen in staphylococcal skin scalded syndrome, can be seen in babies like this. What is happening here? Exfoliation of the skin. Okay, these are all because of systemic inflammations caused by the staphylococcus, okay, in the body. Then there are certain enzymes. What are these enzymes? In slide agglutination test, what was released? Cell surface adhesions. These clumping factors were responsible for the case of slide coagulase test. In case of tube coagulase, which is the actual coagulase test, what can you see? This coagulase enzyme is doing its work. It is activating prothrombin, which is helping fibrinogen to convert into fibrin. So clumping is happening. How do you check coagulase? When you tilt the tube, the material will not flow. It means the clot has formed, right? That is coagulase. Then there are heat stable thermonucleases, deoxyribonucleases, and staphylokinases, and other tissue destructing enzymes. That is why it is able to cause abscess, right, collection of pus, and certain other osteomyelitis. All of this because of all these enzymes. Okay. That is about virulence factors of staphylococcus. Then where do you find the staphylococcus? It colonizes nares. What is nares? These anterior nares, not nostrils, in axilla or perineal skin. So whenever there is MRSA patient in the let's say ICU, when you want to do some infection control work there, these are the places from where you have to do the sampling to see if other people are also colonized, okay, so that you will be able to treat them, because we do not want this bacteria to colonize and cause unwanted infections in these immunocompromised patients, okay. Also, whom will you check for this? Also the healthcare workers, right? This I have told you. Some clinical manifestations are there. What is this? Huh? Folliculitis. This? Furuncle. This? Carbuncle. This? Can you see the suture line here? It means surgery was performed. What is this? Surgical site infection. Okay. What is this? Abscess, collection of pus, abscess. This? Huh? Impetigo. You only told me. What is this? Cellulitis. ये क्या है? Which area is it affecting? What is there in axilla? Which glands? Sweat glands. So what is this infection? हाइड्राडेनाइटिस सुपुराटिवा नाम है उसका, ठीक है। एक बार और, ये क्या है? ये क्या है? ये क्या है? ये हाइड्राडेनाइटिस सुपुराटिवा, ठीक है, ओके। इसके अलावा तुम लोगों को पता है कि ये मस्कुलोस्केलेटल सिस्टम्स में भी अफेक्ट कर सकता है। स्टैफिलोकोकस ऑरियस कैन कॉज सेप्टिक आर्थराइटिस, ऑस्टियोमाइलाइटिस, एनी मस्कुलोस्केलेटल एब्सेस, okay. It can also cause n number of respiratory tract infections, ventilator associated pneumonia, empyema, pneumatocoel, then bacteremia and its complications. If it's in the bloodstream, it can cause sepsis, septic shock. What else can it cause? You have heard about infective endocarditis, right? Then all endocarditis, all kinds of endocarditis, native wall, nosocomial, okay, then prosthetic valve endocarditis, So this is very potential pathogen. Then UTI also. Okay, toxin mediated illnesses we saw, staphylococcal, skin scalded syndrome, food poisoning, and 10, toxic epidermal necrosis. Okay. This we have already covered. Biochemical identification, primarily you will do catalase test and Coglase positive. What else can you do? It also shows DNase test on the DNase agar. What else? For identification by automated systems, you can go for MALDI-TOF or Vitek, and most importantly, do antimicrobial sensitivity test. Okay. What is the drug of choice for MSSA? You do not give vancomycin to MSSA cases because it is inferior. Okay, in case of only MRSA, you have to provide with vancomycin. What are other antibiotics you can give? These. Okay, you can opt for oral therapy through cotrimoxazole, doxycycline, or linezolid. Okay, that is about. This is all not important much. Then coming to streptococcal infections. When you talk about streptococcus, you say that it is catalase negative. Okay. This is how you classify streptococcus. Based on O2 requirement, you will classify it as obligate anaerobes. What are these obligate anaerobes? Where are they present? They are present in the gut. Peptostreptococci, they could be present in the urinary tract. In most cases, they could be present in all the moist places in the body where there is anaerobic environment. Then aerobic or facultative anaerobes, based on the hemolysis on blood agar, they can be classified as alpha, beta and gamma. Gamma is no hemolysis, which is seen in Enterococcus. Beta hemolysis is seen in which streptococcus? Group B streptococcus, and alpha hemolysis is seen in Viridin streptococci and pneumococcus. Now group B is further based on Lancefield grouping and C carbohydrate antigen. It is into 20 serogroups except INJ, about from A to V. There is no INJ. If you count this, it will be 20 serogroups. What is this based on? This is based on C carbohydrate antigen. Okay. Then this group A, Streptococcus pyogenes. Streptococcus pyogenes is further based on Griffith typing, has these many serotypes and genotypes. What is important for you here in case of skin and soft tissue infections? Where have you seen this Streptococcus pyogenes? Where do you remember it from? What does it cause? Okay, and sequels, rheumatic fever, endocarditis, PSDN. What else? Where have you seen Streptococcus agalacti? Neonatal meningitis, right? But when we are talking about skin and soft tissue infections, what are the important virulence factors? Again, just like Staphylococcus, it can be classified as cell wall antigens, toxins and enzymes. What are the cell wall antigens? Lipoteichoic acid, which helps in adhesion to the pharyngeal epithelial cells. That is why it is causing what? Pharyngitis, right? Then C carbohydrate antigen, which is helpful in Lancefield grouping, and M protein is the principal virulence factor for group A Streptococcus. Why? Because it cross reacts with the other proteins in the human body, and that is why, because of immune complex attack, we develop autoimmune diseases like ARH. ARF, right? Capsule is also there. We talked about this. It inhibits the complement-mediated opsonization by phagocytes, this M protein. Okay. Then there are two toxins that we can talk about in Streptococcus, that are streptolysin which is oxygen labile, and streptolysin which is oxygen stable. Okay, but streptolysin SLO is the basis of which test? ASO test. ASO test is done in which cases? It's written here. Post streptococcal glomerulonephritis. In these cases ASO titer is low, but other diseases caused by streptococcus, we can do this. What can you do in these cases? In case of glomerulonephritis, did we talk about streptodornase enzyme? In those cases, you will do anti-DNase B antibody test. In the cases where there was ASO titer less, you will go for anti-DSO test, which is seen in acute glomerulonephritis post streptococcal infection. Okay, what else is there? Streptokinase is there, which is used in therapeutically in myocardial infarction. Okay, कुछ समझ आ रहा है? This is used therapeutically. This is इसका usage मतलब apart from the pathogenicity, this can also be used in therapeutics in case of MI infections. Okay. And about enzymes, these are all tissue destructing enzymes, just like Staphylococcus. Okay. That is about streptococcal virulence factors. Then coming to what can they cause? They can cause respiratory infections such as pharyngitis, scarlet fever, and pneumonia, empyema, sinusitis, otitis media. In case of skin and soft tissue infections, you will see cellulitis. Why? Because this produce transudate like, not pus, transudate like pus. Okay. Then non-separatively, they can cause all these post sequels: acute rheumatic fever, glomerulonephritis, reactive arthritis, etc. Okay. What is this? And this is erysipelas. This, what is the name of this thing? What is involved? Which layer is involved? This is necrotizing fasciitis. Okay. These odd streptococcal antigen has cross-reactivity with this human antigen. So wherever they go and settle, there will be, in these sites, there will be infection. So they can cause infection in myocardium, cardiac walls. We can see glomerulonephritis because of this, skin antigen and synovial fluid, arthritis. Okay. This is how you see a streptococcal species under microscopy. Gram-positive cocci in chains. Could be short or long chains. Okay. And in blood agar, pinpoint colony with wide zone of beta hemolysis. In which case? In case of pyogenes and agalactine. Okay. This all you know almost. We have studied this before. Coming to viral exanthems. What are viral exanthems? What is exanthem? Rash. Is this rash accompanied with some other symptom? When you talk about exanthem, it is generally comes with a fever and body ache. Okay, that is what you call a viral exanthem. So, where can you see these viral exanthems? In case of all these viruses which are able to cause certain skin lesions. What can herpes simplex cause? Vesicular lesions. Varicella zoster is responsible for chickenpox and shingles. Epstein-Barr virus. Following ampicillin therapy, what is happening here? Sometimes when you treat for secondary infections, even if you're giving ampicillin, in case of Epstein-Barr virus, it is seen that a person develops rash. It is which kind of hypersensitivity? Type 4. So, when the drug fades away, then the rash will itself subside, but that does not mean that this person is allergic to ampicillin. Okay, even if he has taken ampicillin before, but at that time he was not carrying a EBV strain, but at this particular time the person was carrying Epstein-Barr virus strain, and you gave ampicillin to cover secondary bacterial infection, there is a chance that the person might develop rash. Okay, that is why we have written Epstein-Barr virus following ampicillin therapy. Okay. Then human herpes virus, which is Roseola infantum, also produce some skin lesions. Pox virus, you remember what kind of skin lesions produce? Umbilicated erupting lesions, right? Parvovirus. Then HPV. HPV produces what? Warts. Okay, then there are certain RNA viruses. You know about measles virus. Where do you see Koplik spots? They have observed where? On the mucosa, right? Rubella virus, again rashes, and Coxsackie virus, known for hand, foot and mouth disease. Okay. This is herpes virus picture. How do you classify herpes virus? Based on what? These viruses have the power of latency, right? They can go under latency after getting into the body. So, where do they go latent? These alpha viruses, which are cytolytic viruses, duration of replication is very short, they go and latency in the neurons. What are the species that are there? Human herpes virus 1, 2 and 3. What is human herpes virus 3? Okay, 4, 5th, 6th, 7 and HHV 8 associated with the Kaposi sarcoma. Okay, so you remember that much. So when you're talking about alpha viruses, they undergo latency in the neurons. That is why you can see that HHV 1 and 2, they can cause these rashes, and HHV 3 also, varicella zoster virus, causes chickenpox and shingles. So HHV 1 attacks where? Above the waist lesions, and HHV 2. So, but HHV, where can you see the neonatal lesions? Why? Because it's coming out of the mother labor canal, which is mother is affecting with this virus. Okay. Then beta. Site of latency in case of beta subfamily, it's gland and kidneys. Where is it? Cytomegalovirus, HSV 5, you can see. Okay. And lymphoid tissue, you can see HHV 6 and 7. And gamma, which is lymphoid tissue B cells. Where can you see this? EBV and Kaposi sarcoma. So these are associated with malignancy. Okay. How do you diagnose a virus? Not in a very conventional method way. If you don't have PCR, then don't have PCR and they'll give you RT-PCR. Achha. कन्वेंशनल पीसीआर जो होता था, जो इलेक्ट्रोफोरेटिक इस पे रन करते हैं, वो भी एक बार मिल जाएगा. RT-PCR itself is a big entity, big automation method. How will you get that? You can see it on the screen. No, you will perform Zank smear in this case, or you can perform any stain to see what kind of bodies. Inclusion bodies. Inclusion bodies are aggregates of ribosomes, certain proteins that virus leaves a mark after causing any pathology in the body. So what are you observing here? Multinucleated giant cell bodies. Okay, you perform Zank smear here. Then you can also go for virus isolation by cell culture. Why? Because virus requires a host to survive. That's why you cannot grow it in vitro in artificial media. You have to provide it with the conventional cellular lines. Okay. What kind of pathology, what kind of picture you will see in this case? In case of herpes, diffuse rounding or ballooning of the cell will be observed. Okay. Then at the high-tech hospitals, you can go for HSV DNA detection by PCR or viral antigen detection by immunofluorescence. Okay, this is applicable to everybody, all the viruses. Antibody detection by ELISA can also be done. HSV are sensitive to acyclovir. You can treat these patients with acyclovir as the drug of choice. It inhibits DNA polymerase of the virus. Okay. Varicella zoster causes chickenpox and shingles. How will it produce lesions? Across the same dermatome. So you will see the scaly lesions following the linear pattern, right? Okay. In case of chickenpox, you will see this centripetal distribution of rashes along the trunks. What is this? This is shingles. Similar in case of herpes zoster also. Then coming to RNA viruses, this is measles. Measles is accompanied by which kind of symptoms? Mainly respiratory symptoms and fever with maculopapular rash. Okay, just remember maculopapular rash. What kind of rash was there in chickenpox? Vesicular rash. Okay. So transmission is droplet based. Close contact should also be isolated. If there are droplets, if the patient is going to school, there is a chance that he might infect the other kids also. How does this disease develop? Prodromal stage, eruptive stage and post-measles stage. So you are isolating this patient right before the rash appears from the onset of fever. Okay. You are talking about Koplik spot. You can see it here. They are present in the buccal mucosa. What is the specimen you are taking here? Seeing the respiratory infection? Nasopharyngeal swab. Nasopharyngeal swab जहाँ से ले रहे हो in case of RNA viruses or any other viruses which are there for causing respiratory infections such as COVID, influenza, you can write RT-PCR. Okay. Then antigen detection, you can go for virus isolation. This is common for all the viruses. Just you have to know where are you taking the samples from. Are we giving vaccine against measles and immunization program? What other vaccines are there along with this? Are we giving mumps? Why are the mumps cases going up in India? Because mumps has now become a re-emerging infection. You will see it in the class tomorrow. Mumps has been taken out in certain states, and that is why mumps cases are going up. Okay, because initially we used to give MMR as mumps, measles and rubella. Now it is just MR, measles and rubella. That is why mumps cases are on the rise in India. Okay. Where have you heard rubella other than the neonatal infections? So I'm not going to teach you. You just have to remember the strains they are using in vaccination. Okay, for example, in rubella they are using this RA27/3. This is asked in the MCQs mostly. Which strain is used for vaccination in rubella? Coming to skin and soft tissue fungal infections, you know about superficial mycosis? What do you know about this? Can you give one example of superficial mycosis? Dermatophytosis and subcutaneous mycosis? Subcutaneous mycosis, one causative organism. Eumycetoma is another name for fungal subcutaneous mycosis. Okay. What is bacteria caused subcutaneous mycosis? What is the name for that? Eumycetoma, actinomycetoma, and the ones caused by Staphylococcus aureus, Botryomycosis. ठीक है, ये terms याद रहना. Eumycetoma is because of fungus. Actinomycetoma is because of actinomyces, bacteria. Okay, and Botryomycosis because of Staphylococcus. Okay. Then coming to opportunistic mycosis. Any names? Cryptococcal meningitis. And but is it a skin and soft tissue infection? Cryptococcal meningitis. Candidiasis. Okay. Cryptococcus can cause lesions, but you said meningitis, so it is not a skin and soft tissue infection. So you say about dermatophytosis, right? What are these dermatophytes and what do they affect? You tell me, what are the dermatophytes that can affect which site? Trichophytons are causing infection where? Skin, hair and nail. Okay, epidermophyton? Skin is common in all. And the third one? Skin and hair. Which one? Microsporum. So you know this much. Okay, now when you talk about tinea, which is a dermatophytosis, what is this? Since it's in the head, what is this? Capitis, right? This is on the face. So, facie. This on the foot, pedis. And this, it's on the body, corpora. So, it is corporus, right? Just remember this. Infection is the same, differs with the name where it is causing lesion. Okay. What samples will you take? You will take what? Skin scraping. You will scrape the skin with the help of slide and you will observe for fungal hyphae. What kind of fungal hyphae can you see? Thin, septate, branched, hyaline fungal hyphae. Okay. So, when you are observing that, where will you see it? You will see it in KOH mount. 10% KOH mount. Okay. You will keep it overnight. What about the skin? What about the nail and hair? In case of nail, you will put it in 40% KOH. Why are we putting it in the KOH? So that it dissolves, right? The skin and nail, this epidermal tissues, they dissolve and can give you the better picture of the infection under the microscope. Okay. Then you can go for this wood lamp examination, which fluoresces due to presence of pteridine pigment in the fungal cell wall. So it will glow like this. It indicates that there is a tinea capitis in this person. Okay. And when you are collecting hair sample, you have to pluck the hair. You do not have to cut the hair. Okay. KOH mount or chalcophore white stain will show you thin septate hyaline hyphae with or without arthrochonidia. And this in case of hair, if you see these arthrochonidias on the surface, it means it is known as ectothrix, or when it is within the hair shaft, it is known as endothrix. Okay. What is the medium that you grow this fungus on? SDA. SDA has what? What is this? Cyclohexamide is also antifungal. Why are we giving cyclohexamide for the fungus to grow? To inhibit the growth of saprophytic fungus. Okay, we do not want the saprophytic fungus to grow, we only want the causative fungus that's causing dermatophytosis to grow. Okay, we will incubate it at this much temperature for 4 weeks. Minimum 21 days we take to give the final result if the fungus is present or not. Okay. For better sporulation, we give potato dextrose agar, and identification is based on, of course, macroscopic appearance based on growth, texture, color, pigment, right? And microscopically, you will observe the hyaline hyphae or macroconidia and microconidia. This is too much of detailing, you have to see it in the laboratory. What is this? How can you tell this? This is a white moldy growth. What is the texture? Is it powdery? Somewhat powdery, but this is not yeast, right? This is all mold. This is all the moldy growth in all the cases. This is Microsporum canis. What kind of pigment can you see? You can see the red pigment. So based on obverse and reverse view, you have to find which fungus is this. First you read the obverse view. You see the texture, you see the growth. What kind of growth is there? Cottony, furry, rubber, powdery growth is there. You have to characterize it and then you go for the obverse. If it's pigment causing fungus, then it is characterized under different class. Suppose there is a black pigment producing fungus, you call them as pheoid fungus. Okay. Based on the macroscopic appearance, that's how you differentiate fungus. Okay. What is this here? This small. These are all microconidia, and these are all macroconidia, right? These are all macroconidia. Okay. This club-shaped macroconidia is seen in Epidermophyton flocosum. These are seen in Microsporum canis, and these are seen in Trichophyton. So Trichophyton you can see in hair, skin and nail, Microsporum in hair and skin, and this in nail and skin. Okay. You can also go for hair perforation test in case of hair sample, only hair sample, and urease test. Urease test you have heard where else? Can you name some organisms that can cause that give you urease test positive? Okay, and Staphylococcus aureus also gives positive. Cryptococcus also gives urease test positive. Okay, and one gram-negative bacilli that gives urease test positive, non-motile, Klebsiella, right? What are you giving these patients? Oral terbinafine or itraconazole? Coming to subcutaneous mycosis, what is the triad of subcutaneous mycosis? Swelling, discharging sinuses and granules. So when there is granules present in the discharge, what do you do to these granules? See, this is typical presentation. You can see this, it looks like granulomatous infection. So there will be a very long incubation, so to say, progress will be very long in these cases. They will not show you with such kind of food in 2 days. The patient will come with the history of these presence of sinuses or discharge from the leg for a very long time. Okay. And then when you open this, you take a sample from this, there might be a discharge of granule-like substance coming out of these wounds. What do you do to these granules? You collect them, crush them, and then observe under the microscope. Just like you observe for other fungal specimens. Okay. What is the difference between eumycetoma and actinomycetoma? Superficially, you will see that in case of actinomycetoma, the ill-defined margins are there, whereas in case of fungus, the margins are very clear. This is irregular, okay? But above all, you have to see if the grains are containing fungal hyphae or it is containing filamentous bacteria. For actinomycetoma, which stain will you use? And you said nocardia can also cause these infections. What will you use? How much percentage? So you will use modified Zn stain. Okay. And you can go for histopathology. Rest remains the same. We are talking about opportunistic infections. You told about Cryptococcus and Candida. We can also say that penicillium can also take part in these patients, but mostly in the immunocompromised patients. What is the new name for penicillium? It is no more known as Penicillium marnifi. You call it Talaromyces marnifi. Okay. This is the newest name for Talaromyces marnifi. Also, Candida auris is now renamed. What is the new name for Candida auris? You will tell in the next class. Okay. You will study and tell. This is how the histopathological stain will show you the yeast cells with central septations and rec-pigmented moldy forming colonies on SDA. This pigment is very particular. What is this? This is because of Candida. What is the name of this? Oral thrush or oral candidiasis. Okay. What else can you talk about when it's candidiasis? Can Candida cause brain abscess? How many say yes? When will it cause brain abscess? When there is candidemia, right? When the Candida is present in the blood, can cause brain abscess. Okay. Rest other systemic infections can also be seen, but Candida mostly attacks where? In case of immunocompromised patients. It is a common commensal flora in GUT of the man, but now even in urinary infections, Candida is a pathogen, right? Whenever you are reporting, you have to mention that there was a Candidal species found in the urine. You know about the Candida laboratory diagnosis? Gram stain? Gram positive? Budding yeast cells. Where will you grow it? With pseudohyphae. Very good. And where do you grow it? SDA. And what is this? Germ tube test? Where do you put Candida colony in? You will put it in serum. What will happen? There will be a tube-like projection growing from the bud of the Candida. If it is positive, it is Candida albicans. Okay. Also, you go for Dalmau plate culture, where you will observe the chlamydospores. You will go for chrome agar, which will speciate this Candida based on their color appearance. Okay. And you can go for molecular methods such as PCR. Okay. You know about mucormycosis? Recently, where was the mucormycosis commonly seen? In COVID-19, right? Aspergillosis. Aspergillus is a commonly found fungus in the environment and very commonly affects the post-TB patients. Okay. Whenever there is cavitary lesions which are later emptied because of the treatment, aspergillus goes and lodges itself there, and it can also cause aspergilloma in such patients, right? They can also give such necrotic exchars on the skin. Cryptococcus, you said about meningitis, but skin lesions are also there in case of disseminated cryptococcosis, right? And what about this? What is this? Scabies. Scabies is because of Sarcoptes scabies. This is a mite which is seen in the burrows in the skin. It hides under your skin, lays eggs there. So, once scabies has infested your skin, you will produce symptoms of around 4 weeks. If it is secondary infection, you will see symptoms around in 1 week. What will happen? They will cause intense itching and pruritus in the areas where they are dwelling, particularly at night. It increases. Also, it spreads because of commonly sharing the clothes, fomites, right? What is the treatment? Permethrin. And what else can you do? Once you have started the treatment, how will you treat the patient? It has to be applied all over the body. You have to repeat it, and then you have to wash off all your fomites properly or sun dry them. Okay. And also reach out to the contacts to see if, because this is contagious, right?